Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello. Welcome back to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. I'm Wendy Harrop, and I'm so thrilled to have you here. It is fall in New England. The leaves are done falling, thankfully. I'm not quite done raking them up yet, but the air has definitely turned colder, and Thanksgiving is next week, and my heart is just full of goodness. I am also thinking ahead to what's coming up in a couple of weeks. We have Entertaining with Ease Live, the holiday edition, and I just wanted to invite you to join me for this. It's going to be so dreamy. We will start on Friday night, December 2nd, with a tree trimming party. So you come over and help me decorate my Christmas tree. I'm so excited. And then Saturday and Sunday are going to be filled with workshops that are focused on holiday entertaining and gift wrapping and decorating your house from your mantle to your front door. We have gift wrapping demonstration. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. Gift wrapping demonstration, and a local calligrapher, Jennifer Wayne, is coming to teach us how to hand letter some beautiful gift tags for those gorgeous gifts we've just wrapped. And we will be demoing holiday food gifts and how to host an epic cookie swap, which is my favorite holiday party to host because everybody else brings the food. It's so good. So all the details are on the website, phineaswrighthouse.com. You can save your seat. This is a very intimate gathering. We're only having 8 people, but there are a few slots left, and I would love to have you there. So please plan on joining me. Now, today, we have the absolute joy and honor and delight to chat with KB, Kristina Brummer, my dear friend and the producer of the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. She does, in fact, prefer to be a more behind the scenes kind of gal, but I think she has fabulous things to say, and she has said yes to herself in some pretty amazing ways, and I'm really thrilled for you to hear this conversation. Before we get started, I would love to tell you a little bit about her. So, Kristina Brummer is the founder and CEO of The Spectacular Middle, a heart-centered, full-service virtual support agency. The Spectacular Middle, or TSM for those in the know, has a hand in a wide range of areas of online virtual support, including self-publishing, podcast production, online memberships, and building solid foundations for online businesses. She and her team act as a strategic partner for their clients, customizing support to meet them where they are in their business journey. This boutique agency approach sets Kristina and her team apart and allows their clients to show up as their whole self in a heart-centered way. After many years in the fast-paced corporate world as a high-level admin professional, Kristina followed that little voice in her head that so many of us have, telling her to take the leap to entrepreneurship. She translated her expertise from employee to entrepreneur, working for herself, being her own boss, and giving herself freedom of time, money, and location. She is a middle child, a published author, and a frequent podcast guest, and is currently developing a course for others who wish to follow in the path of moving from traditional employment to entrepreneurship. Growing up in British Columbia, Canada, Kristina was surrounded by many strong women in her family and her career. She had an especially special relationship with her Nana, who lived a long and inspiring life, passing recently at 99 years young. Her Nana instilled in her the values of working hard, living in integrity, being kind, and the goal of having fun every day. Kristina now lives in a charming small town in central Alberta, Canada, where all the TSM magic happens. Her mission is to help other heart-centered entrepreneurs actualize their business dreams, stepping into living a full heart-centered life and embracing the messy and spectacular middle. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did. Take a listen. Shall I be formal and say Kristina Brummer, or do I say KB?
I think you can say KB.
What a delight. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
Hooray. And I know that that's not totally true. So friends, KB prefers to be on the other side of the podcast. She likes to be on all the technical side, and I don't even know what it's called. That's why the word didn't come to me quickly. She makes my life so easy because I get to have these gorgeous, expansive conversations with fabulous humans. And then I just send her a note and say, I'm done. I just did it. It's in Zoom. And then she makes magic and we all get to listen to it on a Wednesday morning. So I appreciate you stepping onto this side of the podcast, which I know you're going to excel at 1,000 times more than were I to sit in your production chair and try to do something with this podcast. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that vote of confidence. And yes, normally I like to be on the other side, behind the scenes kind of thing.
Yes. And the whole premise of our podcast is to say yes to yourself. And that is something that you do in big and small ways every day. But I really wanted to have you share your story and just about whatever is on your heart right now, whatever delights you, and how this self-care practice of saying yes to yourself is impacting you even today.
Well, first of all, when I did a test of our booking system to be on the podcast, I should have known that you would say, oh, yeah, that's now your appointment. So that is funny. So thank you for letting me say yes to myself in that way. We have known each other now for 3 years, probably.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long, but it feels like longer in a good way. And I think from the very beginning, before say yes to yourself was the phrase that everyone knows you for, you always encouraged me to do that. And you have this beautiful gift of when I tell you something and you get out your pencil and you write it down, it happens. So it helps me to say yes to myself. So big things have happened since we met. And that's a part of it, saying yes to myself. I left my job, full-time corporate job, started my own company. I then decided to make that company an agency and have a team. That's happened. I, along with my partner, decided to move our family to Alberta, Canada, where we don't know anyone, so that we could buy a house and build roots. And we did that too. So it's been a lot of adventure saying yes. I went to France with you, saying yes to that, and spent some amazing time with you one-on-one, but also with Amelia. And I can attest to your commentary that she is an incredible human being. So I enjoyed my time with one-on-one with her as well. So I think it's just a lot of little things that to me seem little, but I think on the outside, they've been a lot of big things.
They really have. And those are things that just in our weekly calls, you would say, I'm going to quit my job. And when I hear a sentence like that, that's when I grab my pencil and I say, ooh, say more about that. When will you be quitting your job? And what date can I put that on my calendar? And then it's been so fun to see you manifest these amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that I've been able to witness that and be a part of encouraging you. And I don't remind you what I wrote down on my calendar, but it's so fun to turn that page and it says, KB is moving. And I know that I wrote that a long time ago, but when I turn the page of the calendar and see that on there, and you are in fact loading a moving van, it's powerful.
It is powerful. It's not something I take it with being flippant either. Like I actually genuinely, when I really want something, will say to you. Now, the power of that for me, there's an accountability outside of myself, but still one, as it is always been things that are really powerful that are seem bigger than I think that I could say yes to. And so when I say them, I would say the 3 things that we've put on there, you were the first person that I expressed that to, and that says a lot about our connection and friendship that we've built, which I think is even, you've talked about this multiple times on this podcast from its inception. And that is this idea of building deep, meaningful relationships with someone, that you've met basically virtually. I mean, we have met in person, obviously now, but at the beginning we hadn't, and it was just as strong then as it is now. So I think that's a really powerful thing as well.
It is. And, I think it is interesting. We have talked before about how there's this new definition of friendship and this just understanding and presence and intentionality that is coming into the way that friendships look, at least for me, and I know for you as well, since the pandemic, for sure. And thankfully, we were connected just a little bit before then so that it felt normal and that to already have a virtual friendship, a virtually centric friendship, I should say. And it's really fascinating because the majority of the people that I've interviewed and we've had on the podcast, I have not met in person. And it's so fun to feel this deep, authentic, genuine connection with people. And it's a game changer. And it has been a life changer for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, pretty much they say to have those 5 people in your world, and pretty much my entire 5 are people I don't see on a daily basis other than on a 2-dimensional screen. But the impact that we have on each other's lives is huge. And so I think it is a difference. I was actually talking to my daughter, Kiana, about pen pals the other day. I'm not sure how it came up, but something at her school. And I was telling her at her age, she's 15, I had 2 pen pals, one in Germany and one in Japan. And I think it was a school project and we had to write to them. And, we had these connections. We wrote letters every, week or every few weeks. And I did it for like 3 or 4 years, even after the school project ended. And you have these connections with someone and I never did meet those girls, but it's amazing how things can be very similar. And, you often say personal is most universal. I think that's very true. And you can connect with people in different, spaces. People always say to me, oh, you work from home, you don't get out very much. I'm like, well, today I was in Australia, I was in the UK, I was in, in Massachusetts, I was in California. So I get out a lot, actually.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How has that transition been from, one of the things that we wrote down on the calendar was to quit your job. So how has that been for you, leaving a corporate nonprofit sector to working from home and then moving your home? How are you doing all of that?
It's interesting to me that those decisions, because those are huge decisions. And when I recognize how simple the yes was for those, it's almost mind-blowing because I ruminate a lot about things. I tend to be an overthinker, and I can overthink things until the end of time, but yet those major life decisions I made literally happened in a minute of, oh, by the way, I'm doing that. I think that's when you're quiet and you allow that inside of yourself to say yes to the thing that you already know is for you. You know, that concept that you share about if you've thought of it, it's for you. And so it's there and it's easy to say yes to those things. And I think maybe the overthinking comes after. But to be honest, with the 3 things that we have written down, my quitting my job, my creating an agency, and my moving, I'd actually never second guessed them. They felt very natural and weird all at the same time because none of it makes sense. It all feels very foreign at times. And sometimes I'm like, oh, who is this person that has done these things? And each one of them had, ripple effects that I wasn't prepared for. And that then caused me to take that, like be intentional about how then I would react and interact with people about what those changes were and how I now saw myself differently. And I think, you shared at the beginning, I like to be behind the scenes. So it's really, how do I now show up in front so that I can have my own voice and stand in my own feet, but still be quiet.
Well, it's interesting you said about those 3 things, how they felt so aligned. They felt, you made them quickly comparatively to some other decisions, but you said that they didn't make sense. And I'd love to hear more about that because I'm wondering, are you saying it doesn't make sense because it's not painful and hard and a slog, and those are the only things that are worth doing, as if it causes a lot of pain and the things that are easy must not be right? Let's shift that narrative, shall we?
I 100% agree. I mean, I grew up in that era of if it's not hard, it's not worth it, right? It has to be hard to be worth it. And I think you and I and others in our sphere are learning to change that narrative so that, we both have daughters and we want them to see it differently, that it doesn't have to be painful and hard. It can be easy, it can be big and impactful and still actually not be hard. So, yeah, I think it is a narrative. I think going through those 3 things, I had to come up against a lot of my own preconceived notions of what career looks like, what family looks like, where you live looks like, all those things, and how it impacted the people in my life, family, friends who didn't understand it or didn't accept it or wanted to, but was like, oh, I don't know about that. And so then that meant that I had to change how I felt about it so that I could be solid in my decision and not waver and feel bad, which of course I did at times. You have those moments where you're like, what have I, like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I made the wrong choice. And I think that's very human, but underlying, when I really listened to my own voice, all 3 of those decisions were what I knew to be true. So I think, yeah, now it's talking about that and seeing how that can be different for the next decision I make, the next big decision. And then watching our daughters, how they are both unicorns, really, and how they both walk in this world. They're observant, they're intentional. They both have a voice. And spending a week or more with Amelia one-on-one was honored and respected her because she told me what she wanted, and not in a cheeky way or anything, like in a respectful, confident, this is what I desire. This is what I don't desire. And I find Kiana does that now too. Like, she will say to me, I don't really want to do that. And normal things aside, I honor that and respect that about her. And I think the narrative is changing for us in our worlds anyways.
Right. I think that's so beautiful. And I love that you've brought that up because I find that when I hear Amelia say things that either sound like she's a 50-year-old woman, because she got a lot of these things, or when it sounds like she's been hanging out in the 3rd grade class with a bunch of people that are not raised in my house. It's really fascinating to me to hear these 2 angles. She said yesterday, she just said something like, nobody ever wants to play with me, or just something that was very I'm sure I said that when I was a kid, but to hear her say that and to know this high vibe, positive, expansive space that I'm creating for myself and for her, when she said it, I looked at her and she looked at me back and she said, "Oh, wait, that's not true." And I said, "Exactly, that is not true." And she said, "I'm going to create a new thought, Mom."
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
that is an excellent idea, Queen.
I
Please
love
do.
that.
It was so good. And I was really glad that she could recognize it when she heard it fall out of her mouth, that that is actually, oh, that that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel good. And not just because my mom like spun her head so fast. What are you talking about? You're the most amazing human I've ever met. I want to be your friend.
I think that's so beautiful to be a part of, but also it's hard sometimes. I spent my whole childhood being told I was an old soul. I much preferred the company of adults. I think I didn't understand kids my age. I thought they were silly. I didn't get it. I remember even being in my early teens saying to my mom, like, what is wrong with kids? Like, why do they do these things? They make no sense to me. And she was like, you just have to find your own way and eventually you'll grow through and up and it'll be different. And she wasn't wrong. I mean, I'm the middle child. So I had an older sister. I tended to hang out with her friends because they were 4 years older than me. I tended to gravitate more to spending time with my grandmother, and I found her interesting. And I think in part because it was less dramatic, more quiet, more grown up conversation. And I think I preferred that from silly. I see a lot of that in Kiana and Amelia. They are still vibrant with being children and they're children, but they have a sensibility about how they see the world. And I think it's very thoughtful. And, our words are shaping some of that. And I'm really proud of that.
I agree. And I think it's, we've talked about it before. It's doing this work, this personal development work, and learning that, a lot of our inner critic and a lot of our conditioning and limiting beliefs are put in place before we're 7 years old. So to be doing that work and learning those things at the same time that I'm raising a 7-year-old, it has made me very intentional about what I say and what I hear her say back to me, because I think it was Christy, posted something on Instagram about how the way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. Maybe I was going to say maybe I'm overdoing it, maybe it's over, but no, I'm not, because we all get to own our own experience. I am very intentional about the way that I parent Amelia, and I am choosing to parent her the way that I am. And for anybody that thinks that I should be doing it differently or better, I invite them to write that down and put it in an envelope and not mail it to me, because I'm not interested in I'm not available for those conversations. We are all doing the best we can, and this is the route that I am taking, and I think that it is the best route for she and I in this moment in time.
I actually think it's funny that we're talking about being mothers, because I would have thought we would be talking about technical behind the scenes because I work for you, work together. But interesting, because something obviously everyone knows about you, that Amelia is adopted. Kiana is also. So we both are not biological mothers. We both didn't have that in our lives, but we're both women of faith. So God brought us the person that was intended for us, and we intended for them. And I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of people make judgments about parenting and how it can be done. And it's such a tiny snippet of what they're seeing to what is the reality. So I'm really agree with you. Like, judgment, you can have your thoughts and opinions about it. And I just put them in a mailbox and mail them to Santa Claus.
Right. He loves
Yes.
mail.
You reserve the mail. I think the other thing that's interesting about us is this podcast and how this all began, because that was a collective say yes, for you and I. Obviously, we've said it, everyone knows that we work together, and you have this thing where you leave me messages and voice messages because you're a verbal processor. And I have you in my ears all the time, more than anyone else.
Yes, you do. More than Amelia, probably.
I feel fortunate. And, there was this time where we both listened to a lot of podcasts, and I messaged you and said, hey, you should start a podcast so that everyone gets to hear you in their ears and not just me. And you said yes immediately. And it has been an incredibly fun journey since almost a year. I actually should have looked that up to see if it's November, like it's been a year.
Yeah, it's been a year because you and I had talked about it, and I was going to start it as soon as I got back from France when I went in October. And that's where I told Jane what I was about to do. And she said, oh, we should do that right now. And we did. So that was also amazing. It's all just been this beautiful unfolding. And I think that, one of the things that has kept me very aligned and on this path that feels like there's a forward motion, even though I cannot see 2 steps in front of me, and that's totally fine, was my morning routine. And you were actually the person that asked me, if you had a morning routine, what would that even look like? And I had a long answer, which was quite surprising for something that I didn't think was available for me. I was certainly waiting for someone to ask me that question. And so that invitation to investigate what that would look like, and then have the very next morning me just wake up without an alarm and recall the conversation and think, oh, well, I'm going to try it right now. And I went downstairs and made coffee, and the dog didn't wake up. And then I grabbed a book and went into our library and read a book and prayed and journaled and thought, wow, that was really cool. I felt like I had a whole day before I needed to wake Amelia up for school. And then I have not stopped. And next month, that will be 2 years that I've been doing that every single day. And that practice has created space in my heart and in my mind where I am asking God, how may I be of service every day? Sometimes I am asking every 15 minutes, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? And whatever drops in, whatever is communicated to my heart in a way that feels in alignment, that is what I do. And it is so fun. It's so fun to not have a plan, let me tell you, because as you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish you had a plan. So many people wish I had a plan. A plan for today sounds really good. A 5-year plan sounds very limiting. It really does. And I'm just so excited to be available for what is next. And I want to be ready for what is next. And just like when I'm shopping for clothes, I don't ever go shopping like for a specific thing, but if I'm out and I see something that I love, then I get it and it goes in my closet. And then when I have a specific thing, I shop in my closet because I've been preparing for such a time as this. And that's what I feel like my morning routine has been. It's been preparing me. So when someone has a fabulous idea, like you should start a podcast, I can say very quickly, yes, I will. That sounds great. How do I do that? And then you tell me what to do, or we pray and ask God what we're supposed to do. And it's all just so good. And it's very easy then to look back and say, oh, I had no idea it would look like this, because I really had no idea that it would look like this. And I did not even feel like I was supposed to figure out what it was supposed to look like before I took the first step. And that is very freeing.
I love that, because actually, interestingly enough, I think we are two sides of that, because I am a planner. But yet I think the thing that we have been doing from the moment you messaged me and said, hey, are you interested in XYZ? And I was like, oh my goodness, maybe. But I think we have been saying yes to possibility from the moment we connected. And I think that has been not always easy, sometimes super easy. And I mean, I think the growth and change with us both being open to the possibilities, being willing to try, being willing to have hard conversations, being willing to, skin our knees and get back up. I think that's what we've been doing together for 3 years, saying yes to possibilities.
Yes. And to, as you mentioned, having courageous conversations, which we're able to do because we are growing. And, there's a verse in Proverbs that the Bible talks about friends and how iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another. And that is, through friction, or it's not conflict. It's just, we both want the best for ourselves, for each other. And I've said it 1,000 times and I will say it again. I am not interested in doing this without you.
Me either.
So whatever we have to do to figure out how we keep doing this together is what I'm available for.
Me too. I think that it's really also interesting, because I know a lot of people know I'm behind the scenes, and I'm going to share behind the scenes. And that is, I think it's really important for people to understand that you are as you are. I think a lot of times we can get caught up in, people who don't know you personally, who are social media, things like that. And I can genuinely say that the person you present and show, the woman who learns how to use a wood chipper, and the woman who at the same time goes to the most fabulous place in France and has an incredible cocktail and looks fabulous, you are that person. You are exactly the person I see on a screen in person as well. And I think that's pretty important for people to understand.
Thank you. Thank you. I received that and I appreciate that. In fact, I just went live earlier today doing one thing so funny. I mean, I would think nobody would do this. I was making caramel, and for this amazing, oh my gosh, this popcorn. It's caramel popcorn with bacon and bourbon.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, please. I think if I were a snack, I think that's neat. So I thought, oh, I should go live as I'm making this caramel. So, I go live, I'm adding the ingredients, I'm stirring it. It does not look like caramel. And I just said to the camera, I was like, you guys go live and do a recipe that you've never done before that you're not sure will work, right? Like, this is just how we do it. Like, there is so little, there's zero pretense. In fact, I don't even have time for pretense.
No,
I'm too busy.
You don't.
I've got grass in my hair, but you need to know how to make a cocktail before we die of thirst. So I just come the way that I come. And I know that I am not for everybody, but I'm not pretending to be anything. In fact, the other thing that I did today on that live was I shared, I'm making this popcorn for a brown party in my barn, which is the kickoff for Entertaining with Ease Live, that nobody signed up for. And I know that it's a great weekend. It's all the things that made me want to move to Massachusetts my whole life from California. So I'm doing it anyway. And I invited some people over, and we're going to have drinks and yummy caramel popcorn with bourbon and bacon in the barn. And then some other people are coming over tomorrow and on Sunday. Amelia and I are having a Friendsgiving, and I will
Love it.
go live and show how I make that turkey, and I will do it as if the house was full, is how I do it when the house is empty, because one, I know I'm supposed to do it. And number two, I'm doing it for me because it delights me.
Yeah.
I want it to be in service to others. But until others find a way to get here or desire to say yes to themselves and come here, I'm still saying yes to me. And I'm still saying yes to what delights me. And this entrepreneurial journey is no joke.
Nope.
And sometimes it feels like you're doing it all by yourself. And sometimes it's discouraging. It's discouraging when nobody signs up for your things. But it's only as discouraging as you let it be. Like if you still just do the thing, then it's going to help you the next time. It's going to, we're going to create content. We can spin anything into a lesson and into something great for what's next. Because as much as I am not available to do this without you, I am also not available to stop. And I'm super not available to get a job.
No, thank you.
Not doing that.
I'm over that.
Yeah.
What I think is really important in that, though, is that is something that connects us, because I'm also who I am here as I am when you meet me. And I'm always said throughout my life that I can't be fake. I would make a terrible thief or liar, because I don't know how to pretend to be something I'm not.
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting. I don't know how people can do that. But I think the other thing that's important in that message, though, is that, you and I both, it doesn't matter if one person shows up to the party, we're still going to give that person the same incredible experience as if 10 people showed up for the party. And in this case, it's about how do we let people know about these incredible things, and so that they can show up the next time when they can see and they can be a part of the delight. And I have witnessed that with you, in things that we have tried and they didn't go, but we still had fun. And
yep.
And then the next time they did, I think even with, the France trips and things, it started out with a few that said yes. And then watching this time with the many, it was an incredible thing to see. I wasn't there personally for that time, but I was behind the scenes. So I was a part of all the things. So I think that you just have to keep trying. And a lot of people who listen are entrepreneurs, and it is lonely. Even though we have each other, it can be lonely. But if you just keep persevering and being yourself and showing up as yourself and giving yourself motivation and grace at the same time, I think that things will start to make sense. And if you are missing out on this fabulous weekend, you still have an opportunity, because there's one in December. Head to the website.
That is true. And I'm going to do New Year's Eve also.
Awesome.
So fun. Super fun.
See, she's giving me tasks on our podcast episode.
100%. Tasks are always coming. The other thing about that, and as far as not being discouraged and keep going, is that a part of my morning routine, a part of these books that I'm reading, a part of these mentors that I'm learning from as much and as often as possible, is to remember that God is my source. He can use people signing up for these trips, signing up for these experiences, and all of those things to generate the income that I need to do the next thing that he wants me to do. However, the people are not my source. And anytime we make something else source besides God, the universe, infinite, we will be disappointed eventually. And I really love the realization through just this conversation and sharing earlier on my live, is that I don't feel desperate in saying that. I just feel like this is how it is. And you people are not my source. God is my source. So you can come or not come. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm still going to do it. And I know that it is all a refining process for me in trusting my yes.
I agree with that. And I think that actually is why we treat the one like the many, because it isn't something that we're doing for external gratification. It is something that is in us. You know, we both serve others in a different way, but it's the same. Like when we're there to be of service to what we're being asked to do, it comes out authentically for one or many. And I think that that's why.
Absolutely. Well, I am so excited to be on this journey with you. And it's very lovely to have someone that gets me. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening to all of my many Voxer messages all day long into the night and executing those and making what I do feel like very much the easy part.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting me be a part of the journey and for always wanting to do this with me.
So much love, my friend.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.